Yeah, it's amazing. It's hard to tell how many people have travelled, but I'm assuming that there's a big contingent of Geelong supporters who are based here in South Australia that have come out. So it's always good when you see a lot of Cats jumpers in the crowd, and I think it probably speaks to, we've only just arrived, we only got here yesterday, but it just feels like there's a really strong vibe around the town, and I think already the concept's proven itself to be a success.
How are you personally enjoying Adelaide? Obviously, a South Australian life.
Yeah, I love Adelaide. My wife and her family are from Adelaide, so we come back a little bit. I don't always feel as welcome as would like over here, but outside of footy season especially, it's a really good place to be.
Everyone's sort of weighing up the concept going forward. Do you back it in for another year or two here?
Yeah, I think, well, in principle, yes. I think there are always things that you learn when you do something new, and there are issues like sort of fairness across the competition and those sort of things that are difficult to work through. But if you prioritise the fans, which I think is always a good place to start, then, as I said, the concept already looks to have proven itself. And so whether it's here or somewhere else, I think it's got great potential.
Ollie Henry, immediate impact on the side last week. How easy of a transfer was it to
Well, we have chosen over a period of time to manage our list, and this year it's even easier to do that, knowing that you can bring in your sub at any time. So we tend to think of the 23 as just that, even though obviously one guy is going to be limited for game time. And the other factor for us was us choosing in the end not to challenge Gary Rohan's suspension, so there was a bit of a like for like there with Ollie. But probably the main thing was he came on and played so well. But again, it's not, our team any given week is rarely a referendum on who we think the absolute best 22 is. So again, we've got some guys sort of on the edge of our team who will play a lot of footy for us this year, and I'm confident that'll be the case with Ollie as well. And in any case, I've said it a few times, but Tanner Bruhn and Ollie Henry in particular were two players that we brought in to help us over the next decade, not just the first month of the year. They're in their third seasons. We've got high hopes for them.
Review out of the game since you spoke post-game, getting the game on your terms in the second half. Do you see that as a springboard to get back to your best footy going forward? And how have you sort of taken what you got out of the second half?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, but I tend not to try to rely on those sort of things. We tend to, it sounds boring, but we tend to go back and try to review our games consistently, sort of irrespective of whether we win or lose. And look, I think we did that again this week, but there are certainly a lot more positives from the second half that we can draw on. It looked a little bit more like us, but even I've got to be careful talking about that because we're changing and we'll continue to change. So I think it's a real mistake for us to focus too much on what we have been and what our best footies look like. It's more exciting to think about what it could be into the future. And yeah, but we are keen to ride that momentum.
What's been the message to him to sort of get back? And I know you've spoken previously about the new guys sort of adapting to your style. Is it around that, or is it specifics that these guys have got to work on to get back into the side?
No, it's not. It's certainly not a case of you're not playing well enough so you're out of the team. It's more about us getting a few players back from injury. We had some openings in the first couple of weeks of the year that we didn't have, say, for example, towards the end of last year. And bringing those guys in, it was good to get them in early. And individually, all those guys, I include Radigalia in that as well, have shown us enough to be excited about them. But the collective, it's more about, as I said earlier, manage our list over the course of the year. And Brandon Parfitt's an example of that. He's going to be an important player for us in our midfield, but we're just not going to play them all at once every week.
I guess declining quite a heavy hit 2 weeks ago. How's he feeling? How positive is he?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we're excited about the combination of Radigalia and De Koning. It'll be even more exciting when Jack Henry comes back about the halfway mark of the year. But I didn't really get too involved in, and I don't as a rule, in the early part of the concussion protocols. But to my observation, he was really bouncing around. So that's a very unscientific observation that no one should take any notice of. But it is reassuring that he seemed to bounce back pretty quickly, and there's been no doubt that he would play really from the first couple of days after his injury.
We saw Cam Guthrie put him at a time with the physios. Things like a foot, ankle, was he been carrying a bit this week?
Not that I know of, and I would know. So our session before the game tends to be very individual, and the guys can choose their own adventure to an extent. So I did see him doing some stuff by himself, but that's not unusual for us.
So nothing to suggest he was in any doubt.
No, he'll but unless there's something that I'm not aware of, and I would be by now. No, he's fine.
Sorry,
West Coast quite a young forward line. How do you kind of plan to exploit that?
It's a real risk for us to think about how we could exploit them. It's more the talent in that half, sort of irrespective of age, is quite clear, and it's daunting because I look across every team in the competition, and it's pretty easy to identify their strengths. And I think West Coast have struggled a little bit in the absence of Oscar Allen over the last year or two. So he's clearly a talented young player who's going to be a handful for us. But again, even for the game, it's exciting. I referenced it in round 2 when we played Carlton, and it's great for our 2 young key defenders to get the chance to play on Mackay and Curnow, and I think Darling and Oscar Allen are similar in that they're a real handful if they get their game going. So no, we're not looking at the West Coast game in any way, shape or form around how we can exploit it. It's more just make sure we can match them at their strengths and see if we can get the game played our way.
you're strong in the ruck, stuff post-game in the Hawks. Have you had clarification, have you had conversations with the AFL since that day?
No, well, they clarified it a few weeks ago, and again, I just think the most important thing for our coaching group, and I'm not even making comment on other coaching groups, what we aim to do is to understand the rules as well as we possibly can and coach our players accordingly. And I think the AFL have been really clear on what the rule is. So it might be a different discussion to have what the rule should be, but for us, we don't really care around what it should be. We just want to know what it is, and yeah, we've got perfect clarity.
Tom Hawkins, just his game last week, do you think he's sort of edging back to Tom Hawkins of a year or two ago?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was our expectation going into the season anyway. We made a decision that we were quite clear on early in the year to bring him in and kind of build match fitness and form through the AFL team. And I guess you can sort of highlight the risks with that, but without going into too much detail, we thought that was the right decision for him and for us through the medium term, and we're confident he would get better. We did get some injuries on the eve of the season too that meant that the next best option was clearly not as good at Hawk, albeit with him underdone. So I think that the pattern was pretty easy to predict, and that seems to be the way it's playing out. So hopefully he just gets better and better the next couple of weeks.
Just a final on him, I spoke to him yesterday, he sort of hinted that maybe management might be in conversation next week or so. Is that on your radar, just given what he's been through to get to this point?
Yeah, that was our plan again. So he's in a big group of our players, even younger players, as you've seen with Tanner and Parfitt and those sort of guys. We don't really have any intention of looking at any one player and saying they have to play 23 games or plus finals. We're just going to take it. We've got a macro plan which clearly probably points to Hawk not playing every game, but it can change week to week as well, and there's no point taking him out when he's improving and feeling good and then playing him when he feels a little off. So logic kind of takes over, but it's good to hear he's on board because they want to play every week. They're always the same, and we like them thinking that way, but we try to be smart.